UFC 303 2.0 full card predictions. This version is way better than the last one. The McGregor one only had, one or two significant fights. This is a real card with a real title fight and way more contender bouts. So let's get to them. We'll work our way down from the main event. Jiri Prochazka versus Alex Pereira 2. I'm going to go with Jiri and New. He was way better in their first fight. He had all the significant moments. He had the takedowns and he had the punches up against the fence. I know he did run into Pereira's left hook and get early stoppage by Mark Goddard, but he is the overall better guy, in my opinion, between the two. He can mix in the grappling. That right hand keeps landing. I'll do another breakdown on this, a bit more of a, in-depth breakdown, but Alex Pereira keeps getting clipped by guys like Papa Gio, the 6'5" boxer that he sparred. The right hand was so close to landing. Even Jamal Hill, in that exchange, he threw his right hand first and missed by a glance, and then Pereira caught him. So, also, Jiri was way more willing to take this fight. Pereira didn't want it until 305 in Perth, so it's just the logical pick. I know he is the underdog and people are riding with Pereira's wave, but come on. The better fighter out of these two is Jiri Prochazka. Plus, Jiri's one of those guys you can depend on improving. Look how much better he looked against Rakic. I know technically no technique there and he did lose the rounds, the first round, but man, the guy was just running through the punches. His flow was better and all the basic shit was there. So, Jiri Prochazka and New second round TKO. It's going to be, he's going to get Pereira up against the fence and he's going to be a bit more measured and just clip the guy. And then maybe get a TKO as Pereira falls to the ground. And it'll end in the same fashion it did, but a bit more legit. Now, co-main event, Ortega versus Lopes. If you watched Yair versus Ortega 2, you know that Ortega's chin is gone because Yair Rodriguez has no punching power. Diego Lopes, it just makes sense for him to continue on this, this journey of first-round knockouts, dude. He's been and a submission too. He submitted Gavin Tucker with the triangle, and then he's been knocking out Sabatini. I know he has no chin, but still, it's very good competition. Same with Sadiq Youssef. He also flatlined Sadiq Youssef with uppercuts. And if you saw what happened with Yair, Yair dropped him when he came in close. But this time, I think it'll make sense for Diego to rush Ortega, clip him with an uppercut, and potentially even submit him because Ortega's going to be way more wobbled from a Lopes uppercut or right hand than he would a Yair one. So maybe he gets caught in a submission. I would say Ortega's grappling is way more superior, but with a knockdown in mind that I'm thinking will happen, Diego Lopes should beat Ortega and jump way up the rankings. So, yeah. Now, feature bout, the real fight on the card. Title aspirations for Smith. Third round TKO. Roman Dolidze, Fraud Lidze, has no skill whatsoever. He did strike Vettori, but now we outstrike Vettori, but now we know that Vettori's striking is shit because he got pieced up by Cannonier. Logically, you have to go with Smith, the bigger guy. He's had more time, but that doesn't really matter, I guess. Striking-wise, Smith's boxing is okay. He hung in there with Spann for the most part. He even did it in the third round with, one eye, one big pink eye, or purple eye, or whatever. He stayed in there. I don't like his, recent version of his boxing where he just lifts his leg and shakes his lead hand at his opponents, but I don't know. Roman Dolidze, he has one good win over Jack Hermanson, which was, based on capitalizing on a takedown, which I don't think Smith will do. I think he's smarter than that, and he wants the Pereira title shot. I think he's going to box up Dolidze for the first two rounds, but not definitively. It's going to be a close fight until the third round. Smith lands a big shot, and this dude's gone. But I will say this, Roman Dolidze, one of the cleanest tattoo games, in the UFC. Unlike Smith, his tattoos are horrible. I don't know why I had to say that, but, another, I guess, insight on this fight. So, now, women's fight. Very controversial to say women's, because Macy Chiasson does not look like a woman. She looks like a bantamweight fighter. Her haircut and everything. She is fitting in with today's society perfectly. And she's going to win this fight. She's the better fighter. Mayra Bueno Silva, I guess, looking at it in hindsight, had a draw to De La Rosa where, her grappling got shut down. A necktie against Holly Holm, where Holly Holm won the first round, I think. And, what is it? Chiasson's losses have been pretty, I guess her last loss against Aldana was tough. I mean, a liver kick from bottom guard doesn't make sense at all. But she's the way better fighter. She has a good, I guess, grappling defense, as she showed defending that Aldana armbar. And she submitted Penny Kianzad. Yeah, that's her name. She submitted her as well. And, she has enough to shut down Bueno Silva's whole game. And she'll just be dominating like half guard or something like that. Or the clinch if they're on their feet. She's going to be tapping around. It's a 30-27 decision for Chiasson. Now, Ian Garry, once a cuck, forever a cuck. But Michael Venom Page is one of those fraud checks that I have been waiting for. I guess not really, because Logan Storley, he should have won the Storley fight, but his grappling got horribly exposed, and I can count on Ian Garry, the younger guy who's been, hopping gym to gym, especially now at Shooter Box, training with like Damian Maia and Charles Oliveira and stuff, to initiate his ground game on Michael Page. And just kind of went out a decision. I mean, Page is going to make a highlight out of you if he wins the fight. I know he didn't against Holland, but he did have the highlights. I don't think he's going to be a guy to do it on Ian. So, and then Ian Garry on a very weird win streak. Neil Magny, Jeff Neal, and Michael Page. What do they all have in common? Just think about that. Just, yeah. But he'll get a decision, maybe 30-27, but 29-28, in my opinion. Now, Pyfer versus Barriault. Barriault is one of the most, I don't know. He was so lucky to get that Chris Curtis fight. He has such a negative record in the UFC. He had a loss to Kennedy, Andrew Kouani. I might be saying his first name wrong. I don't know why. Andrew Kouani, the guy who Alex Jacek got a comeback on. Yeah, that guy. Pyfer sleeps him. I mean, they put him in the feature prelim for a reason. I know he took Curtis to a split decision, but you can't rate Curtis at all. And that's why you can't rate Brendan Allen at all. But I count on him improving. His boxing's good. It'll be enough for them to get close up, and for Pyfer to just get a clean knockout. I think he'll get it in the second though, but after a dull first round. But yeah, easy layup for Pyfer. Swanson versus Fili. Cub Swanson won a robbery against Dowdu, where he should have lost pretty much every round, but I picked him to win, so whatever. As for Fili, got flatlined by Ige and stuff, but looked good against Lucas Almeida. I feel like he could clip Swanson's chin and drop him and sub him maybe. So I don't know. This is just Fili's gonna win this fight. It just makes sense for him to. Cub Swanson is getting too old, and against Hakeem Dawodu, the recent version of Dawodu who lost to Arosa, Julian Arosa, you can't rate that version, so you got to go with Fili. I'm going to go with a sub, knockdown and sub, so he's just going to sneak it in, a good hook and clip Cub. So, yeah, and mix in the leg kicks as well. I feel like that's something he'll do after getting clipped by Ige. But now, Charles Jordane versus Gene Silva. I know Gene Silva beat the great Weston Wilson, and he will beat Charles Jordane again as well. I don't know. Oh, whatever. Sorry. He will beat Charles Jordane as well. Charles Jordane is very inconsistent, and I guess just because he has a few good wars and he has that Spartan kick and a guillotine over Lando Venata, we overrate him too much. He's a bit more of a shelled up guy when it comes to the fight, I guess, other than the Burgos fight. He hasn't been really doing much. He just let Sean Woodson control that fight. And Gene Silva, I can count on this dude, this absolute maniac with a lock on his chest and the Lord right on his guts. I can trust him to get a good decision where he just stares down Jordane. I can see him hitting Jordane with a good 1-2. He just has decent power and everything. I think better than Jordane's game. I think Jordane, if he wants to win on this one, has to put in some like clinching and grappling. But if not, then sucks for him. We're going to go with Gene Silva. Now, Peyton Talbot versus Yanis Gamori. You can just tell by the odds. You got to go with Talbot. Submission, TKO, it doesn't matter. It's going to be a highlight and a performance bonus. However way you want it. I mean, look at Giannis. The guy's just happy to get his paycheck at plus 900 odds. This is a one-way matchup for, I guess, Peyton Talbot. So, now, Michelle Waterson-Gomez versus Jillian Robertson. I think Michelle Waterson-Gomez is ready to give up on her career in front of 20,000 people sold out at the highest gate in, I guess, T-Mobile history. Because, if it wasn't for that split decision against Angela Hill, she would be on a 7-fight losing streak. 8, maybe? I don't know. Maybe 8-fight losing streak if you add in this one or count this one as well. So she's going to sub him. Jillian Robertson, I mean, she loses to top tier. Not top tier. Every time she fights somebody ranked or about to be ranked, she loses to them. If not, she submits them. You could see that in the Tabitha Ritchie, Polyana Viana fights. Polyana Viana was nowhere. Was never going to get far in the rankings as of now, especially as she's focused on many other things than her, I guess, mixed martial arts legacy. So, yeah, and against Tabitha Ritchie, somebody who wanted to be ranked and who's very selfish, in my opinion, using Callum Walsh to propel herself up the, I guess, favoritism ranks. But, sorry. Jillian Robertson will submit this gal. We saw Marina Rodriguez control her on the ground. I know she did it with ground and pound, but hey, I think Jillian's going to, snatch up like some rear naked choke or an armbar on Michelle Gomez as well. And Gomez retires. Hopefully. So, next up, Arlovski versus Buday. Why is this guy still fighting? Oh my god. Please retire Andrei Arlovski. Martin Buday, as you can tell, I know he covered up his gut with the 29-28 decision, but come on. This guy, John Anik or whoever the commentator was, I remember they talk about his gaming career every time he walks out to the octagon, how he was, a loser until he found mixed martial arts. But he has decent grappling, I guess. He submitted Josh Parisian, the guy Robellis Despain knocked out in a second. Andrei Arlovski, whilst he did look good against Cortez Agosta, he got flatlined with Dontel Mays, a guy who has a Louis Vuitton imprint tat on him. That should say enough of why you should never, ever lose to Dontel Mays as a UFC heavyweight. His physique is melting. He's old. Arlovski, yeah. But Buday, I don't think he has finishing power. And I don't think he's going to submit Arlovski, but he might get him in like an arm triangle hold or something like that to get a decision. So, yeah. Now, Ray Tsura versus Carlos Hernandez. Mr. Road to UFC versus, I guess, Carlos Hernandez. We see the theme with Japan and Mexicans or Hispanic descent. We're going to go with Ray Tsura. He has a very good ground game. Everyone illegitimate, he's beaten. He beats them via sub. Anyone legit, he takes them to a decision. Carlos Hernandez is one of those guys who falls in between. He's kind of a jack of all trades. He's decent. He has wins over Altamirano and Bondar, but has losses to Taira and Nascimento, the two of the better flyweights. So Rei Tsuruta could get a finish, but I think, he's going to have a feeler in round 1 and dominate rounds 2 and 3 with the grappling. Maybe show off some striking as well. Come on, Japan versus Mexico has been, a rivalry that has been one-sided so far. And Tatsuro Taira's carried, the Japan flag across the border very well, across the wall. Rei Tsuruta wins. And now for the early prelim opener, the first fight on the card. This should have been in the spot of Arlovski. I hate that this fight is not on the prelims. Simone versus Oliveira. Now, you see the odds at minus 225 for Simone and think to yourself, wow, Simone is going to win this fight. I don't know. You have to knock out Vinicius Oliveira to kind of beat him. All his losses are via TKO. And Simone's boxing is just too shelled up for a guy like Vinicius Oliveira who can control it at range. I know Oliveira got caught by some inside boxing against this dude called Ali Taleb. It was his last loss. He dropped the guy and wobbled the guy on multiple occasions in that fight until he got caught in the 3rd round. And Simone doesn't have that type of power, in my opinion, to clip Oliveira. So I think Oliveira is going to control this at range. I don't think Simone's wrestling is going to be a problem because Vinicius Oliveira also has some decent grappling that'll counteract that. So, plus Simone's been a bit too chinny, or not even chinny, a bit too hittable, and the bigger octagon. You got to take this in too. This guy was getting out pocket boxed by guys like Bautista and Yadong in a small cage. This is now a big cage with a bigger guy, a way bigger guy. And I feel like Oliveira's going to dance around this dude and put Simone on a 3-fight skid. His knockdowns, his last 2 knockdowns for Ricky Simone have come against Jack Shore, which is by his build. You can tell he has that bow nickel build, no muscle definition. And Rafael Sansao, the older version of him, of course. So those don't... what can you take out of those two? So, other than that, he can do it in the pocket with some hooks. So, I'm going to go with a 2nd round knockout. We've seen Simone get clipped by guys like Yadong and even Uriah Faber. So, I know that was a long time ago, but the Yadong one was way too recent to ignore. And Oliveira, he had a great flying knee against Sopage. He dealt with the grappling. He survived the grappling. And, I feel like he'll get a knockout out of this one too. So those were the predictions. Deuce.